Hey you guys, it's Kyle with Markham Reptiles, and today we're going to go over the top 5 items that you need to have in your snake room. Alright you guys, so as usual, we posted this question on Instagram, and you guys voted through your comments and through your likes of those comments as to what these top 5 answers were. If you don't already, go ahead and follow us on Instagram at Markham Reptiles, and thank you to everyone who participated. Once again, the people have spoken, and you guys have come up with a great top 5 list of must-have items in your snake room. All right, you guys. So for number 5, you guys said heat source. Heat source is very true. Whether you're heating the room using a radiant heat panel, using heat tape, using a heat lamp, any of those things, a ceramic heat emitter, a heat mat, whatever you're using to heat your enclosures, heat is very important. And I see why you guys voted it onto this list. A lot of people choose to heat the whole room when they have a lot of snakes, and if you just have 1 or 2 snakes, you're most likely just heating the enclosure. And you guys actually said something else in the comments that made a lot of sense as well, and that is that without electricity, you can't have heat, okay? So you do need electricity for your snake room in order to get the heat. So those of you guys that commented electricity, I'm going to go ahead and put your comments up here as well. And also, you don't want to use heat without a thermostat. So if you said thermostat, like my wonderful mother actually commented thermostat, thanks mom, you're right. So thermostats are very important because they regulate the amount of heat. You need to have your heat regulated because too hot is often way more dangerous for these snakes than too cold. And you don't want to have these guys at the wrong temperature and put them in jeopardy. Number 4 that you guys voted in as a must-have item for the snake room is actually hand sanitizer. Yes, hand sanitizer can be super important, not only for disinfecting your hands in between handling different snakes. If a snake bites you, you can actually put some in your finger, rub it in that snake's mouth, and that'll get the snake off of you. I actually use something different for this, and I'll show you guys what I use to get snakes that are latched onto me off. This, you guys, is what I use to get snakes that are latched on off of me. If a snake is feeding, bites me by accident, or something like that, a feeding response bite where a snake actually wraps me, I actually use mouthwash right here. I just dab a bit on my finger and I rub it on the side of the snake's mouth. I don't pour it in or anything crazy like that. But mouthwash is actually what I use to get off a snake that is latched onto me. And it works great. Hand sanitizer also works great. Rubbing alcohol works great, but it's kind of strong. You know what I mean? That's why I use mouthwash. And water actually works great sometimes too, you guys, just running some water. I actually included both hand sanitizer and mouthwash in a video that I made already of basically all the items that I have in my snake room. And I listed that video below. I might make a new one soon because I've actually added more items. I keep a lot of stuff in my snake room to make sure that I can take care of these guys and really be prepared for anything. And speaking of being prepared for anything, I have a good friend who's always prepared to give you guys a really good snake fact. So let's kick it over to Dan for one of Dan's snake facts. Take it away, Dan.
What is going on? This is Dan with Shack Scales. I have my adult female blood python Nessie here with me today. Snake fact for today: blood pythons strike hard and fast, and that's a fact.
Thanks, Dan. Before we get into the number 3 must-have item for your snake room, I just wanted to show you guys Midas right here before I put it back and pick up the next item. Midas is a super cool northern white-lipped python male. He's a captive bred. He's 13 years old. He's a pretty big guy, and he's very golden, which is actually why we named him King Midas, who, if you guys know anything about mythology, was the king that everything he touched turned to gold. We are hoping everything that Midas touches turns to gold as well, because this guy is absolutely beautiful, and I just love him. He has a decent temperament on him too. Bit cage defensive, but once you get him out, this guy is chilling, and he is an absolute beast of an animal. I just love handling him. All right, you guys, the number 3 item that you guys voted on, you guessed it, was snake hooks. Snake hooks can be super important. Jaleel Wilson actually wrote this comment. Shout outs to you, Jaleel, at Savagery Reptiles. And Jaleel keeps a bunch of venomous stuff. So if you keep venomous, these are like your hands. These are super important. You need to have these if you keep venomous. I use these actually a lot for non-venomous snakes. I have my retic, for example, tap-trained Eva. So every time that I go in her enclosure and I'm going to pick her up, I just tap her on the head, and I basically just let her know that she's going to be picked up. I don't pick her up with the hook, but I just tap her on the head and I let her know. And when I feed her, I don't tap her. So therefore, she's developed a pattern to where she knows that if she gets tapped, then she's going to come out of the enclosure. So they're super useful for that. I actually use them to open tubs sometimes. If I'm feeding a snake in a tub that is super food aggressive and just shoots out of the tub, I'll pull it open with this just to give me some extra room. And I'll have like my tongs in my hand or whatever, and feed the snake that way. I use it for that. I'll use it for some minor handling here and there for some stuff that's a bit jumpy, just to get stuff used to touch. But really, I'm using this mostly for my retic Eva, and I do actually use it quite a bit, like I said, for feeding and just pulling open tubs of snakes that shoot way out of the tub wanting to eat. All right, you guys, before we get to number 2, I just want to give a big shout out to our sponsor, Reptiles. You guys should know of them. If you haven't heard of them, they're a wonderful coconut chip producing company, and I've linked them in our description below, so go ahead and check them out. Number 2 that you guys voted in as the most necessary item to have in your snake room is this right here, and that is F10 Veterinary Disinfectant. Guys, this is a must-have for me. I keep a lot of this. I actually mix it up in spray bottles, and I'll show you that right now. Here's some bottles that I have just sitting around my snake room. I mix these up. Whenever they run out, I mix new mixes, and they run out quite a bit. I use this stuff every single day. If you guys don't know what F10 Veterinary Disinfectant is, you should probably get some. I spray down all my tubs with it. I do all my cleaning with this stuff right here. It makes sure that there's no bacteria on the surfaces, that everything is spotless clean, and I use this stuff every single day. So I see why you guys voted this to number 2. This stuff is super, super, super important, and I love it. By the way, we are Amazon affiliates, so all the products that we name, we're going to actually link those in the description of this video, and you guys can click those links, purchase them on Amazon, and we actually get a small, small bonus off each purchase that you make, and you pay exactly the same price that you would if you didn't use our link. But those are in the description below if you would like to use those. All right, you guys, for the number 1 most important item to have in your snake room, you guys really did it this time. You voted snakes. Wow, you guys, wow. I didn't really have that in mind when I made this question. I wasn't really considering snakes an item. My question was more along the lines of what supplies do you need for your snake room? But actually, when I wrote the question and I read it out loud to myself in my mind, immediately the word snakes popped into my mind. So I may have answered the same as you guys. I totally understand why you answered that way. What is a snake room without the snakes? You can't have a snake room without the snakes. And though I wouldn't really consider them items, they definitely are essential to a snake room. Check out our girl Tinkerbell right here. She's actually in shed. She's in blue. She has some of that nice orange, is actually turning like a bit of a pinkish color, and her eyes are completely blue right here. And she is an absolutely beautiful girl. And we could not have a snake room, of course, without snakes. So shout out to you guys. Wow, you picked a doozy right there. The number 1 most important item in your snake room was snakes. Now, we do have some honorable mentions that I'm going to get to right now. One of the honorable mentions was actually betadine, and this is iodine. Iodine is basically the same thing as betadine, and what this is used for is treating skin issues or scale issues with snakes. So basically, if your snake has scale rot or something like that, or really any type of minor skin abrasion, you can treat them with this, and when they shed, it'll basically come completely off. This stuff can be useful. I don't use it a whole lot at the moment, but I have used it in the past, and it is something that I keep in my snake room. So, definitely this is useful. Another honorable mention is actually a sink. And I think that this is super important, and that's why I threw it in here. If you're building a snake facility, you need to include a sink in your snake room. Every day, I go and I fill buckets full of water, and I scoop that water out of the bucket and pour it in each enclosure and stuff like that. And some of these bigger water bowls, I actually will go outside and I fill them with the hose, or I'll go upstairs and I'll fill them with the sink. But every time I do that, I'm leaving the room. And it's a lot of extra work in carrying buckets, 5-gallon buckets full of water, up and down the stairs, in and out of the house. So having a sink in your snake room, super important, you guys. Super important. If you have a snake facility, if you have a bunch of snakes, having a sink is actually a really important piece of having a snake room. Well, all right, you guys, there you have it. You guys did it again. You killed it with the answers. A wonderful top 5 list. Thank you to everyone who participated, everyone whose comments that you saw pop up here. All of those wonderful people are linked in the description. Those guys are some wonderful breeders, some wonderful reptile keepers, and you should definitely check all of them out. Shout outs to you guys, the viewers, because without you guys, we wouldn't even be making these videos. So shout outs to you guys. We definitely love and appreciate all of you. Go ahead and keep spreading the love of reptiles throughout the world, not only through the reptile community, but throughout the wider spectrum of the world. Just spread that love, and you guys have a wonderful day.